you. Hey, folks. Huh. It's interesting. Hey, guys. Thank you for hopping on this live tonight. Yeah. Guys, I'm excited to be on. Eddie Lopez, somehow you and I have got to reconnect. Let's see here. So, friends, I want to welcome you to tonight's live. I am coming from Phoenix, Arizona. I have lived here my entire life. I love it here. I have a twin sister that's in Utah, a sister in Tennessee, a sister in Arkansas, kind of all over the place. But I'm especially excited to get on tonight and talk about something that I really believe can make a big impact in people's lives. Rosemary Cardines, the Philippines, I love it. Thank you so much for hopping on. I appreciate you. By the way, I would love to connect. Okay. I would love to connect with you in the Philippines. Okay. So if you're open to that, I would love to do that. So, we're going to be talking about something that affects over 90% of adults. And most people don't even know that they have it. But before we jump in, if you wouldn't mind, tell me where you're tuning in. I know that we've got, hey, Miji, we've got somebody from Arizona, we've got California, we've got the Philippines. So if you wouldn't mind, drop your city, your state, your country. Kansas. Joey, I love it. Thank you for hopping on tonight. And Eddie, certainly want to invite you. You're certainly welcome to hop on this live. Jojo from California, appreciate it. Genevieve and Caradu Color, something like that. Caraduck. Alberta, Canada, I love it. So I'm here in Phoenix, Arizona. Maryland, wow. It's got to be cold where you're at right now. Phoenix, I think, was like 60 degrees today, 65 degrees. It was actually perfect weather, in my opinion. I was wearing I wore slacks, but I had a polo. It was super nice. But I love the weather in Arizona right now because it's just perfect. Mike in Phoenix. I'm here in Phoenix as well. I'm in Mesa. So for those of you that are here in Arizona, I would love to connect with you if you're open to it. So, folks, if you know somebody who is struggling with their health, okay, go ahead and share this live with them so they can listen, they can ask questions. I'm going to share some personal things with you, and I truly pray that it helps you to avoid the mistakes that I made. Kuroxley says, Columbus, I love it. Debbie, thank you so much for the follow. I appreciate that. Smith Jr. said it's -1 where I am. That's crazy. I was talking to somebody in part of Canada, and it was -25. And I think the lowest was -31. That's just crazy. I don't know how you can do it. And I don't know if you can tell, but I got scratched by my she looks all innocent. Look at this. But she got me earlier. She got me. Huh. Yeah. She got me. Oh, I love that. So where is Charlie? Right here. And if you can't see on the box, toothless. Toothless. Now you get the other one right there on the box. So thank you for being on tonight. Okay. Folks, if you are struggling with your health, okay, this information could change your life. If you know somebody that is struggling, I hope that you'll share with them this live. I encourage them to hop on. They can listen, they can ask questions. Okay. Text, that's cold. It's really cold. But what I do is I help people to understand what insulin resistance is. It is something that affects 93% of people. Miss O, thank you for the follow. What I eventually learned was a major issue called insulin resistance. It's a metabolic condition that's now incredibly common. It's associated with things like weight struggles, blood sugar issues. Trina, thank you for the follow. It's associated with things like hormone imbalances, cardiovascular risk. And you want to know the shocking part, ladies and gentlemen, is that most people are never directly tested for it. Most people don't even know that they have insulin resistance because it's rarely even talked about, right? Doctors don't typically talk about this. Why would they? Right? Now, I've had some close calls with my own health, right? Some of you know my story, but back in November of 2014, I donated a kidney to my sister's husband. And it was 7 years later when I was diagnosed with stage 4 kidney disease. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about that. But Kelly's Cakes from the UK, I love it. And I hope that you recover well. I'll keep you in my prayers. You know, I donated a kidney, and 7 years later, in 2021, I was diagnosed with stage 4 kidney disease. And my nephrologist, he said, Troy, you need to lose some weight. You need to change your diet. You need to do this and this and this. And if you don't, you're going to end up on dialysis or worse. So my doctor gave me medication, as I'm sure many of you have been given medication for your issues. And the medications that were given to me did not work at all. And Joey, I love that. After a month, your old pants fit. I love it. Folks, I have had some close calls with my health. And once I finally understood what was happening metabolically, everything started to make sense. And Donna, thank you for the follow. Now, over the past 2 years, I have focused on improving my insulin sensitivity. I've focused on improving my labs, my energy, the quality of life. My quality of life, folks, changed in ways that I didn't even expect. This is why I do these lives. Mike, good evening. Thank you for being on this live. Folks, not to scare people, right? But I do these lives to help give the information to people that, quite honestly, I wish that I had earlier. Lakota, thank you for the follow. Here's something that surprised me. When people go to the doctor and cholesterol is elevated, medication is often discussed first. Don't you guys realize that when you go to a doctor, that's the first thing that they want to give you is a medication? There are millions of Americans on lipid-lowering medications. And for many people, I would say that they're helpful and maybe even necessary. But what most people aren't told is that nutrition and metabolic health play a vital role in this. And one of the most interesting things that I've ever learned was that you can fix and you can reverse the symptoms of insulin resistance. And you can do it naturally without the need for meds or for diets or crazy exercises. And Joey, I'm confident that if you are consistent, it will continue to help you. And you will continue to see the improvements in your energy levels and maintaining insulin sensitivity. Sandy, thank you for being on. North Carolina. I appreciate you being on. Thank you. You know, my brother and Mike, 100%. You're absolutely right. Mike says big pharma is how they make their money, and it's true, right? They make money. I mean, here's the reality too, folks. Doctors test what they can medicate. Does that make sense? Okay. Doctors test what they can medicate. You guys realize that they're in Sandy, thank you for the gift and for the follow. Did you know that there are 2 tests in human beings that doctors actually won't do? One of them is doctors don't test chronic inflammation and they don't test fasting insulin. But you know what's interesting is that when I go to a doctor, doctors are typically going to check your blood sugar levels, your glucose levels, right? Your fasting glucose is one thing, but what's interesting is that your fasting insulin is what controls your glucose. And yet doctors refuse to test you. When was the last time that your doctor checked your fasting insulin levels? I've even had a lot of my customers go and ask their doctor, right? I've had customers literally ask their doctor to check their fasting insulin, and the doctor says, no, you don't need it. And the reason why is because there is no prescription for insulin resistance. Sandy, RA, right? Rheumatoid arthritis. There's many people that I know that have improved that and reversed it. And folks, if there's anything that you get from this live, and Diane, thank you so much for reposting. I want you to know that I'm nothing special. I'm an individual who had a life-altering results on this system, right? It literally saved my life. And I made a promise that I would share this with as many people as I could to hopefully make an impact. I know every single live that I do, there's at least one person that I'm connecting with that will ultimately change their life by what I'm teaching. And that's what it's all about. I am on a mission to help 1 million families improve the quality of their health. And if you are somebody that is struggling with your health, what I'm going to share could change it. T, thank you for the follow. Here's why this conversation that we're having matters. In the United States, over 90% of adults are metabolically unhealthy. It's actually 93% of people in the US are dealing with insulin resistance. Nearly 3 out of 4 adults are overweight or obese. And more than half are pre-diabetic or diabetic. Folks, we're even seeing these things show up earlier in kids and teens. But it's not personal failure. This is a metabolic environment problem. And Joey, I appreciate you. I really do. And for those of you, right, that I'm working with, if you feel this in your heart, right, I am looking for people that want to share this. I have a customer who's been using this for about 4 months who just partnered up a few days ago because they want to make a difference in people's lives. And if that's you, I'd love to have that conversation. So, you know, the Bible says that no good tree bears bad fruit, but when we imagine what a tree looks like, okay, when we imagine the roots that are, you know, built as a foundation, when we think about that and we think about the fruit that's on the tree, right? I want you guys to understand that the fruit is high cholesterol, right? Chris is asking, what does pre-diabetic even mean? Well, your A1C could be high, right? You could have high cholesterol, you could have fatigue, you could have blood pressure issues, you could have blood sugar issues, you can have hormone problems. And when I think about that, the root The root is insulin resistance, and it is often overlooked. In fact, the reality is that when you go to a doctor, all they're doing is diagnosing and treating your symptoms. They're not worried about fixing the root cause. And as I'm talking tonight, I want you to think about your own health. Drop a 1 in the chat if your energy or your weight has been a big issue for you. Sandy, I think you mentioned that, right? And drop a 2 in the chat if your cholesterol or your blood pressure has been an issue. And if you're somebody that has struggled with your blood sugar and cravings and energy crashes, okay, put a number 3 in the chat if that sounds familiar to you. Benny, 1 and 2. Folks, I want you guys to understand you're not alone and you're not broken. You really aren't. What I'm going to do is I'm going to walk you through 2 simple foundations that support insulin sensitivity. And I'm going to talk about a tool. And no, I'm not here to try and sell you guys, but I'm going to talk about a natural tool that is helping people around the world simplify this process. So stick with me, ask questions, and let's learn together, because that's what this is all about. And Mike, I agree with you 100%. So let's talk about insulin for a second. And Rena, Destiny, insulin you take, I would imagine you're a type 2 diabetic. And Chris, good for you. Folks, I just want to teach a very simple principle real quick. I want to talk about the difference between a type 1 diabetic and a type 2. A type 1 diabetic has an autoimmune issue, right? They have an autoimmune disease that is attacking their pancreas. So they have to inject insulin. Without it, they die. We know that. But a type 2 diabetic, what frustrates the hell out of me is that a doctor will give a type 2 diabetic insulin. Do you guys realize that your insulin is already high and that's why you are diabetic? So why are we giving a type 2 diabetic more insulin? And folks, far too often, all we are doing is we're throwing medications at our symptoms. I want you to understand that if we're throwing medications at our symptoms, it's like having a dirty fish tank. Okay, the water is gross, it's murky. You've got fish that are swimming upside down. Do we throw more drugs in it, or do we clean up the water? And I would imagine that the majority of you would say, we clean up the water, change the water. But when we go to a doctor, what they do is they diagnose and they treat the symptoms and they send you home. And here's the part that no one wants to tell you, but I'm going to. If I go to the doctors because I have IBS and cholesterol and migraines, and let's just say, folks, that I go to 3 different doctors, well, you're going to pay a copay to every doctor you go to, and you're going to go home with at least 2 to 3 different medications or more, and not one of those will even touch the root cause of the health issues that you have. All they're doing is treating the symptoms. But what happens the moment you stop those medications? What do you think happens to all of those symptoms? They come back. Why is it that you and I can white knuckle a diet for 2 weeks and maybe we lose some weight, but when we stop that diet, what do you think happens? Think about this for a second. Folks, I want you guys to understand that you can fix and you can improve insulin sensitivity naturally. If what I share, and folks, I really hope and pray that those that are coming on my live, that if you want the information that I'm talking about, feel free to reach out to me. If there is anybody that is on my live that is reaching out to you to share this system with you, please let me know. I don't know who Chris is, but Chris shouldn't be reaching out to anybody on my lives trying to share a system that I'm talking about. Folks, I'm happy to share this with you. In fact, I'm even happy to work with you. But please let me know if there is anybody that comes on my live that might be doing and using the same product and maybe even sharing it. But please let me know if people are reaching out to you, because I would never do that. And I would hope that you guys will let me know if somebody's poaching and reaching out to you, asking you to purchase this from them. My goal is to help you understand what insulin resistance is. I want people to understand why our bodies react the way that it does, why we have the health issues that we have. I am living proof that you can fix and reverse insulin resistance, but please let me know if there are people on my live that are reaching out to you that might be promoting this system, the Feel Great system. Please let me know if they're reaching out to you trying to sell it to you. They should not be coming onto my live or anyone else's live trying to get you to buy a product from them. What I love about this system is that it works. It doesn't work 10% of the time. It doesn't work 50% of the time. It works 100% of the time. There are 0 side effects that come with the system that I use. There are no contraindications with the system either. It helps to regulate your blood sugar. It helps to lower your triglycerides. It helps to lower your insulin levels. It helps to increase your HDL. It lowers your LDL. But I want you guys to understand that if you are struggling with your health, I just want you to think about something. If you're on medications, and I hope that you're not. Now, mind you, if it's helping you to manage your symptoms, what's interesting is I was having a conversation with somebody, and they were telling one of my new partners that they've been on a statin for 15 years, and their insurance pays for all of it except $20 a month. And so she asked, how long have you been on this medication? 15 years. Folks, I really want, and she asked something that really made perfect sense. Folks, I don't care if you've been on a medication for a year or 40 years. Are the medications making you better and helping you to get off the meds, or are they just managing your symptoms? Are they keeping you where you don't want to be? And if you can answer that honestly, that the medications you are on are only managing and keeping you healthy, but not fixing the root cause, then you've got to go a different direction. Benny, this system helps to normalize your blood pressure and your cholesterol naturally without the need for medications or diets. Michelle K., what I do is I teach and I educate individuals on what insulin resistance is. We all know what the symptoms are, right? How many of you, okay, let me put this in here, okay? Redeemed by his grace, I love that. Let me show you this, okay? Let me see if I can pull this up. This is the root of today's struggles, right? How many of you are affected by any one of these issues? How many of you have skin tags or psoriasis or adult acne? How many of you have high blood pressure, high cholesterol? When you go to a doctor and your cholesterol is high, how many of you are often, asked to take a statin? Okay, how many of you are diabetic on metformin? How many of you are sick and tired of going to your doctor and your doctor just wants to send you home with a bunch of meds? Right, Benny? And Carlos Zuna, thank you for the follow. How many of you are diabetic? How many of you are carrying around excess belly FAT that you would love to get rid of? How many of you feel like you're doing everything right and you still feel like you're going backwards? When I donated a kidney, and I'm very honored to have donated a kidney, and Cordy Star, thank you for the follow. When I donated a kidney to my sister's husband, my brother-in-law, I was very honored to do that. But I never thought in a million years that 7 years later, I would be the one being diagnosed with stage 4 kidney disease. I was the one that was told that if I didn't make changes, that I was going to end up on dialysis or worse. That scared me. Rex Bifera, thank you for the follow. And by the way, it wasn't until I learned what insulin resistance was that I was actually not only able to lose weight, I lost 32 pounds. I had migraine headaches for 23 years. I had acid reflux and brain fog and anxiety, depression. I had sleep apnea. I had all of these things, and all of it went away within a matter of 5 months. In fact, when I went back to my kidney doctor says, I don't know what you're doing, but keep doing it. Folks, every time we go to a doctor, far too often, all we're doing is throwing medications at our symptoms. I want you to think of insulin resistance like a fire that is burning out of control in your body. Just like how the smoke signals that there is a fire, every symptom that you can see in this box, you've got diabetes, you've got the C word that we celebrate in September, you have PCOS. 26% of American women have this, right? It's the leading cause of infertility for women. You've got erectile dysfunction, which guys in their 20s are dealing with, not just men in their 60s. You've got neuropathy. You've got obesity. You've got migraines. You have Alzheimer's and dementia, which we now know to be type 3 diabetes. Fatty liver disease. You guys realize that before 1980, people that had fatty liver were people who drank alcohol? And now they've got 3-year-olds. They have 3-year-olds that are being diagnosed with non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. And Mama Zebra, I'm not sure what your question is, okay? 3-year-olds are being diagnosed with non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. We have 2-year-olds that are being diagnosed with diabetes. And there's 3 simple things, Benny, that I teach people. The first one is fasting, that I'm going to talk a little bit more about. The second thing is fiber. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that. And the third is having the right tools. Now, the tool that I use, I'm going to share with you. It is changing people's lives. You don't have to use it if you don't want to. But what I would encourage you is to find something that works for you. And folks, if you're answering the tool is medications are not the answer. I'm interested in helping people to understand why our bodies react in the way that it does. And most importantly, my goal is to help you to avoid the mistakes I made. My goal is to help you to improve your health. And if you're on a bunch of meds, my hope and pray is you get off these meds. And folks, go watch my pinned videos. Watch the information that is on my TikTok page. Let's talk about insulin for a second. Let me put this in here because I think that this will put perspective, right? How many of you, this is your diet? How many of you from the time that you wake up in the morning to the time you go to bed, you're having breakfast, then you're having a snack in between breakfast and lunch, and then you have lunch, and then you have snacks, and then you have dinner, and then you have dessert, and then you have a snack, and maybe you have another snack. I mean, literally, how many of us were told to have 3 meals a day and to snack 2 to 3 times throughout the day? Seriously, think about this. We call this sad diet, right? The standard American diet. Tanya, thank you so much. I really appreciate you. We call this the standard American diet. How many of us were told to have 3 meals a day and to snack 2 to 3 times throughout the day? First and foremost, I hardly ever snack anymore. We're not toddlers, right? We're not kids. We don't need to eat throughout the day. And for those of you that have been taught to have smaller meals and I've had conversations with people that are having 5 to 6 to 7 meals, right? That keeps your metabolism up, right, Tanya? And I want you guys to understand it's not about eating less. It's about eating less often. See, what you might not realize is that your body actually runs better when you don't eat first thing in the morning. But how many of you, like myself, were told that breakfast was the most important meal of the day? How many of you still eat breakfast? How many of you love a bowl of cereal? My cereal choice, and I know that you guys are going to judge me for this, but I used to eat literally a half a box in one sitting of Fruity Pebbles with marshmallows. It's the worst cereal that you could have because there's no benefits to it, right? It's crazy. And what's interesting is that there is a corporation that created this idea and put in your head that breakfast was the most important meal of the day. How many of you have ever read the book Metabolical? I know some of you have. I know some of you have the book, but there's a doctor by the name of Dr. Robert Lustig who wrote this book called Metabolical. He said that the number one fast food restaurant in the world is not what you think it is. If I was to ask you that question, I would imagine a lot of you would say the number one fast food restaurant in the world is McDonald's. But he said it's our public schools food system. Think about what your kids are starting their day with. You know, I happen to, and I don't recommend this to any one of you. And if you're one of these, I pray for you every day. But I used to be a school bus driver part-time. Right? It was just, I thought it would be fun to do. And I don't need to tell you this because you guys have kids. I'm not joking when I say this. More than half of my elementary students and my junior high students, and even the high school students that I would occasionally pick up, more than half of them were dealing with health issues, weight issues, anxiety and depression, right? It's not just physical anymore, it's mental as well. Folks, when I say that 93% of people, that's not a number that I made up. That was actually a number that was produced by the University of North Carolina. Folks, 93% of people. Fidan, good morning. Juliet, good morning. Right? Insulin resistance affects us all. And most of you that are watching this live right now, you're on a bunch of meds. And you're probably saying, you know what? I love that my meds are for free, right? Your insurance might be paying for it. But I want you guys to understand that the medications you're on will eventually damage your liver or your kidneys if it hasn't already. Folks, how many of you are diabetic? How many of you are loving your metformin? How many of you would love, honestly, to get off these meds? If there was a solution to the problem that could help you improve your health in a way that you didn't have to give up your favorite foods, that you didn't feel like you had to go to the gym every single day of the week. I don't go to the gym every day. I should. I enjoy working out. It's fun, but I don't go every day. Folks, I want you guys to understand that we have that solution to the problem. Now, Benny asked the question, like, what is it? Well, there's two things that I teach, fasting and fiber. Some of you have probably been told that you shouldn't fast. Fasting is one of the best things that you and I can do. It's the quickest way to regulate your insulin. Now, I illustrated this, the modern diet dilemma, for a reason. You know, Katrina, I love, and I hope you don't mind that I'm putting you on the spot here. What you just wrote is perfect. You said you're a type 2, but it's controlled with diet and your GLP-1 med. Guys, what if you could manage, and I'm not interested in managing your symptoms at all. I could care less about managing it. What if you could fix it? Katrina, what if you could fix it so that you never have to be on those meds? That you don't ever have to eat a specific diet? What if there was a solution to the problem that actually worked, and it worked with your body and not against it? And I love Tanya's story, right? Her A1C went from 10 to 5.5, which is awesome. She's off meds over 2 years now. Olaf, carrots. I mean, I love carrots. Steve, how do you fast? Can you elaborate on what your question is? Right? Fasting is simple. You just don't eat. You don't drink. Now, Carlos, what I do when I wake up first thing in the morning, and by the way, I fast anywhere from 18 to 24 hours a day. I literally, no joke, I eat 1 to 2 meals a day, and that is it. There's a few things that you can do, okay? And Katrina, I would love to work with you. And by the way, okay, whoops, let me put this in here. In case that you want to stay in touch, I've just pinned a form that you can fill out. So here's what I do. Do you have a time that you fast? Carlos, I actually change it up. I almost change it up every single day because what it does is it creates a hermetic stress on your body. It's like when you go to the gym, right? And you're working out with weights, right? You start working out with smaller weights and then you get stronger, right? And then what you do is you go to bigger weights, right? And you're getting stronger. You're creating stress on your body. So what I do when I wake up first thing in the morning is I drink water, but I mix this chlorogenic acid tea, right? Now you can do a dry fast, and I know that people do a dry fast, and it can be really hard to do a dry fast. And this is no water, right? This is no food, there's no coffee, there's nothing, right? You are literally doing a dry fast. No, nothing's coming in, right, at all. Now, that can be a hard fast. What I love about this is it is a yerba mate plant, and it's not just any yerba mate, okay? The yerba mate that I'm talking about is a highly concentrated, and it is loaded with 2 compounds, theobromine and chlorogenic acid. Now, how many of you love dark chocolate? How many of you love black coffee? Right? Black coffee and dark chocolate have 2 major compounds in it. One is theobromine. It's the natural mood booster, right? It makes you feel good, right, Joey? I love dark chocolate too. And chlorogenic acid, right, is in coffee and it's in chocolate. This is why we like it. It's not necessarily the coffee we're addicted to. We like the chlorogenic acid, right? Well, this yerba mate tea has 10 times the amount of chlorogenic acid in this little packet than 1 cup of coffee. And if any of you have ever drank yerba mate before, and I'm not talking about this, right? This kind is full of sugar and full of carbs. It's full of garbage, right? I don't drink that. I just have it for display. But this has 375 times more chlorogenic acid than a regular cup of yerba mate. And I want you guys to think about something for a second. The yerba mate plant is not in the PDR. And if you don't know what the PDR is, it's called the Physician's Desk Reference. This is a resource that doctors use to prescribe meds. Yerba mate tea is not in the PDR. But this is. It is clinically proven to lower your total cholesterol. It's clinically proven to lower your triglycerides, your LDL. It improves your HDL. It lowers your A1C naturally. For those of you that are diabetic and your doctor has prescribed you metformin, guess what? This tea is a natural metformin. It does the same thing, but with no side effects. And for those of you that are considering or already on a GLP-1, similar to the one that I was prescribed, well, guess what? Your body, you can't just give your body a GLP-1. Your body produces it on its own. What's amazing about this tea is that when I sip on it, it actually helps to increase my body's own production of it by 70%, which is even greater than metformin. Right? A lot of people are getting on these meds because it shuts the food noise off. And it does a really good job at that. The problem is there's a lot of side effects. What I use has 0 side effects. Now, I want to share something. How many of you are familiar with Rexall drugs? How many of you have ever heard of Rexall? Rexall was a pharmacy that started in 1903. Okay, they used to be the biggest drugstore in the world. And these scientists and doctors created a blend of plant-based fibers for two reasons. One, because our food industry was literally taking fiber out of our food. And the second is that they wanted to eradicate heart disease naturally. Did you know that heart disease is the leading cause of death worldwide? And it is caused by insulin resistance, something that you can improve on its own. This is why I do these lives. Fasting, now when I wake up in the morning, I sip on this tea. It literally shuts the food noise off. I push my breakfast. I don't eat breakfast. I push it back. I skip it. I love breakfast. I just have it for lunch or I have it for dinner. Folks, when I was diagnosed with stage 4 kidney disease, I was dealing with migraines that I had for 23 years. I had brain fog. I had a lot of issues. And I had no idea that every single one of my issues that I had was all caused by one thing. But guess what doctors enjoy doing? They enjoy diagnosing and treating every single one of your symptoms with a medication. I wanted to lose weight, which is why I said yes to this. But this made me sick. It did absolutely nothing to help me lose weight. In fact, if anything, it made things worse. And it wasn't until 2.5 years later, so basically 9.5 years after donating a kidney, right, I was introduced to a natural tool that has been around for over 30 years and hardly anybody knows about it. And the reason why I talk about fasting is because when you go longer periods of time without eating, you are avoiding glucose spikes and you are avoiding insulin spikes. Every time we eat food, okay, every time, especially sugar and carbs, we spike our blood sugar. And what happens is that your body releases a hormone called insulin. Insulin is the hormone that plays a critical role in how our bodies use energy. I want you to think of insulin like a key. Think of it like the key that gets you into your house or the key fob to your car. Without it, you can't get into your house and you can't get in your car. And what happens is that every time we eat food, we spike our blood sugar and our body releases insulin to bring this back down. Insulin, folks, is a fat storing hormone. Carlos, what I'm referring to is this, okay? And I'm going to talk about this in a second. But what I want you guys to understand is why fasting is so important. And Freddie, thank you for that. I appreciate that. When you fast, it is the quickest way to get your insulin under control. Insulin is the key here, folks. We've got to get our insulin under control. If you don't have your insulin under control, you're going to get skin issues. You're going to get blood pressure, cholesterol issues. Diabetes is going to develop, neuropathy, autoimmune issues. How many of people have rheumatoid arthritis or lupus or Hashimoto's, Crohn's disease? How many of you have neuropathy, retinopathy, gout, GERD, right? All of these things, folks, that I just mentioned are caused by one thing: insulin resistance. It is caused by one thing. And most of you are getting on meds to try and manage your symptoms. And most of you have no idea that you can actually fix it without the need for your meds. This is why I get on here, okay? Now, fasting is important, okay? The second step, Benny, is fiber. We get less than half of the fiber that our bodies need, right? When you have the right types of fiber, okay, in fact, this fiber it's a blend of soluble and insoluble fibers. We need diversified types of fiber. And when you do that, folks, it acts like a prebiotic. It helps to regulate your blood sugar. It helps to regulate your insulin levels. It helps for this to lower, to come down. And Joey, I love that. And Maritza, I hear this all the time. The doctors and dietitians and nutritionists will tell you that your type 2 diabetes can't be reversed. They're wrong. I've seen it with my own friends. I've seen it with hundreds of customers over the last 2 years. I've seen hundreds of people reverse type 2. I wish that I knew this information that I'm sharing with you now. I wish I knew about it 21 years ago, because my dad would still be here. I don't know if you guys are looking at the comments in the chat, but Cell Girl says, I'm 156 days on the system. This is what she's referring to, Benny. And she fasts anywhere from 16 to 20 hours a day. She's 78 years old. Folks, I don't care how young or how old you are. I don't care if you've been dealing with, look at this guy. Okay. This guy has been, oops, wrong one. This guy has been dealing with diabetes for 20 years. Look at this. And Evie, thank you so much. Right, 20 years, his neuropathy pain is decreased by 80%. He reversed type 2. I mean, I'm not making this up, folks. Here's this guy. This is a buddy of mine who's been on the system for a while. Look at what he had to write. Look at this. Isn't this incredible? He's down 81.5 pounds. His IBS is gone, gout is gone, vertigo is gone, depression. His A1C went from 11.3 to 5.8. Erlene Champagne, thank you for the follow. And thank you to everyone who is tapping the screen and sending these hearts. When you do that, you're actually sharing this with people that need these solutions. So I really appreciate you doing that. Thank you. So here's the competition right here. Well, let me share this with you. This right, Cell Girl, thank you for that. Carlos, look at this. This is a type 1 diabetic. In 66 days, I've decreased insulin by 64%, completely off of blood pressure meds after 47 plus years of high blood pressure. A1C went from 6.5 or 7.6 to 6.5. This is the will of torture right here. This is what I was talking to you about, the physician's desk reference. You want to know where this statement's coming from right here? This is coming from the Cleveland Clinic, which happens to be the #1 heart hospital in the world. Let me share this last thing right here. This is the competition. And honest to God, I have never met another human being that would rather be on any one of these if they knew that there was a natural solution that could help improve their health, which is exactly why I teach the Feel Great system. It's exactly why I talk about it. Because it works. Folks, in 5 months, I reversed stage 4 kidney disease. I just wish that my dad had this. Insulin is not your friend, folks. When insulin stays high for too long, your cells stop responding to insulin in the way that it should. And then what happens is that your body starts to compensate by producing more and more insulin just to try and get the same job done. That is what is called insulin resistance. And it's far more common than most people realize. And Jake Praise, thank you for being on. I appreciate you. You know, I have information on my page that I would love to share with you. And I'm happy to connect with any one of you that's open to connecting. If you want to learn more, I'm happy to teach you. So think about this. Right now, more than half of the adults in the United States are diabetic or pre-diabetic. Nearly 3 out of 4 are overweight or obese. Rates of cardiovascular disease, autoimmune conditions, fertility, metabolic dysfunction continues to rise. And like I said, these challenges are not just limited to physical health, right? Insulin resistance has also been associated with fatigue and brain fog, mood changes, right? Anxiety and depression. These are all things that affect the quality of life in powerful ways. And folks, I don't work with everyone. I don't work with people who don't want to change their habits. I don't work with people who want a quick fix. I am not about a quick fix. I want to help fix the root cause. And Jake, if you look at the LINK, right, that's on my page, there's that information's right there, and I'm very limited on what I can say. Evie, I love that. I love it. Thank you so much. Folks, insulin resistance is like a fire burning out of control. If you want to fix the root cause, you've got to put the fire out. So how do you do that? Well, when you fast or when you go longer periods of time without eating or without drinking calories and sugar, what you do is you allow your glucose spikes to come down. When that happens, the insulin comes down. And Carlos, I can work with you. I can help you. You don't have, like, if you guys want what I'm using, awesome. I will help you to get it. If you don't want it, awesome. There's no judgment. I just want you guys to have the information so that you can make the best decision for you. What that looks like is entirely up to you. But what I can tell you is that fasting, increasing your fiber intake, can make, you guys realize why the food industry has taken out fiber out of our foods. Have you guys ever noticed that when you go to a restaurant, that they bring you out bread or chips and salsa to start your meal? The reason why they do that is not because they're not trying to be nice. It has nothing to do with that. They could be the nicest person in the world, but that's not their motive. Their motive is to give you the chips and bread because they know that when you eat that, before you've even had a chance to order your food, that you're going to eat more food. You're ultimately going to spend more money, right? How many of you have, literally, think about this. How many of you, and Jake Praise, I'm happy to jump on a call if you want, okay? Send me a DM. I'm happy to do that. How many of you have ever eaten a meal and then 20, 30 minutes later, you're hungry again, or you're tired, right? You just want to go and take a nap. How many of you start your day with a big glass of coffee? It's got a bunch of sugar and cream in it. You have your breakfast and then you go to work. And by the time you get to work, you're just sitting in the meeting and you can't keep yourself up. How many of you lack energy? And how many of you, because you're lacking the energy, you're seeking more energy drinks or more soda or more coffee? Or how many of you are literally finding yourself eating all day long? Folks, I want you to understand that, in my opinion, and this just is my opinion, you can agree to disagree, I don't think that diets work. I don't think it works long term. I think that any one of us can white knuckle a diet for a month and we stop the diet and we end up ultimately gaining more weight, right? Or all the weight comes back. It's no different than when the medications, after a year or 2 years, they lose their effectiveness. And so what happens? All of these symptoms that you have come back. And then you go to your doctor. I mean, here's the reality. When you go to a doctor, your doctor is telling you that your glucose levels are fine. They're telling you your labs look normal, but you don't feel normal, right? You feel sick. The reality is when they check your glucose levels, it's like having a basement in your home that looks dry on the surface, but if you were to just look underneath that basement, it is already full of water. Pay attention to what your body's telling you, just like you would respond to a flashing check engine light in your car. Our body is always telling us what's going on. Now, some of us, we've got the blinders on because we just don't know. Here's the reality behind insulin resistance. It is silent. Folks, you could have insulin resistance for 10 to 20 years before it even leads to a diabetes diagnosis. Here's one of the reasons why most of you are being blindsided by your doctor when you're sitting next to your doctor. Your doctor is saying you've got diabetes. You're like, what the hell? When did this happen? Some of you are doing everything that you possibly can to lose weight if that's your goal. You're eating clean, you're eating healthy. Folks, even skinny people have insulin resistance. You could have skin tags and psoriasis. You could have the dark patches of skin. You could have PCOS. A man could have erectile dysfunction. You can have low testosterone, estrogen, progesterone. Folks, all of these things are ultimately caused by what we put in our mouth. It's not about eating less, it's about eating less often. And all I encourage those that are following me and those that are actually interested in using this, what I encourage every single one of you that's willing to use this is to try it for 90 days. Because here's the truth. If this doesn't work, you guys realize that you could cancel and get all of your money back? The manufacturer gives everyone who's willing to try it their money back after, up to 90 days if it doesn't work. We are the only company in the world that has a natural solution to insulin resistance. This is made from plants and food, and yet it is in the very PDR that your doctor will prescribe your statin, your metformin, your Ozempic, right? Think about it. It is just as effective and often works better than the medications that are often prescribed. You can use your HSA or your FSA. Folks, your doctor can look this up in the PDR. When you go to a doctor, when was the last time that your doctor sat you down and said, you know what, Benny or Carlos, this is why your A1C is so high. This is why your cholesterol is high. Let's change some things up to lower it. But no, here's a medication for this. It's like having a leak in your ceiling and you're putting a bucket to catch the water, but you never fix the roof. And I'm not saying that you have to use this forever. I'm not even saying you have to use it at all. But if you are open to a system that has been around for over 30 years, it has been studied by the Cleveland Clinic, which is the #1 heart hospital in the world. It is, you want to know what the Cleveland Clinic, the #1 heart hospital in the world, said? They're concluding, they studied 119 hyperlipidemia patients. They gave half this fiber and they gave the other a placebo. Their concluding statement, what is that if people were to use this on a regular basis, it would decrease cardiovascular disease on a population basis, and it would decrease the need for lipid-lowering prescription meds. More than 1 million people, billion, by the way, on statins. Coach Chris happens to be not only one of my customers, he happens to be one of my partners. Miji happens to be one of my customers and happens to be one of my partners. There are many people, folks, that are on this live. They have no hidden agenda. My goal when I get on these lives is to teach you something that will help you, to give you hope. Because the reality is that when you and I go to a doctor, they are not concerned about fixing the root cause of your health issues. Why would they? Do they make money when you eat or when you don't? Do they make money when you're on meds or when you're off your meds? The reality is doctors diagnose and treat the symptoms. And if you want to fix the root cause, you can. Dr. Tiffany, how are you? And I don't know if JPat, are you still on this live? I don't know if JPat is on, but if she is, I would love to invite her. Let me see here. She's not on. Well, JPat is a really good friend of mine. She's actually one of the people that shared this with the person that shared it with me. She's a retired nurse of 40 years. And she says that she has helped more people in using a natural solution than medications that doctors want to put you on. This is why I love talking about what it is that I'm talking about, because it works. And most people just don't know about it. And if this resonates with you, and if it sounds like what you are looking for, folks, you don't have to wait to fix your health. And Carlos, I understand, right? And you're young. You've got a lot of life left. And I would imagine that your grandkids and maybe your great grandkids want you to be around as well. Folks, I don't care. My dad passed away on Easter Sunday, 2017. I wish that I knew this information because he would still be here. My 85-year-old mother is in a memory care facility in Tennessee, and she's struggling with a laundry list of health issues. And I've tried to get her on this for years, for the last couple of years. And the people there just don't want, for whatever reason, and that's a whole nother story. But I made a promise to God that I would get on here every single day and share this, because there are people that are struggling to fix their health. And you can try it. And if it doesn't work, you literally get all your money back. You lose nothing. There's no risk. So going back to the basics of what I teach, fasting. Fasting is powerful. The Bible talks about fasting. It talks about healing and rejuvenation. Most of you don't know this, but when you fast for 24 hours, you reset your gut. When you fast for 72 hours, did you know that your body creates brand new stem cells? The same thing that people spend thousands of dollars to get injected, your body can create it on its own. And by the way, when you create brand new stem cells, you don't have to give the stem cells any directions. It knows exactly what part of your body and what cell needs to be healed. It'll find the areas that need to be fixed, and it'll fix it for you. Cleanse the gut, reset your gut, right? It's like you're detoxing it. You know, the system helps to detox your liver. It improves insulin sensitivity, and it nourishes your microbiome, which is where 80% of your immune system is. And when you improve your immune system, right, you feed the healthy bacteria. We've got healthy bacteria in our gut, right? It fights off gizmo. Did you guys know? How many of you have known anybody who has ever struggled with the C word that we celebrate in September, right? CANCER. You guys know what I'm talking about. Did you guys know that when you fast, your body creates ketones? Your body has two fuel sources. Your body is either burning the food, right? And you're making sugar from the foods that you're eating, or your body's making ketones because it's utilizing your stored FAT, the stored calories, the stored energy that your body has. Your body can use that as your body's primary source of fuel. But no, you guys, we've been taught to start our day with a bowl of cereal. We've been taught to eat 3 meals a day and to snack 2 to 3 times a time. How many of you diabetics have ever been told to start your day with oats? Do you guys realize what we feed horses to fatten them up? How many of you were told to, this was the old food guide, by the way, but we were told to have 6 to 11 servings of what every single day? Grains. You guys know what we feed cows to fatten them up? I want you guys to understand that a lot of the advice that you and I were given is wrong. It was a lie. And I'm humbled to be on this live to share this because I know that there's somebody that is going to change their life just by making the simple changes, fasting, getting more fiber, right? We can get that from our foods, but our foods have been so depleted. Most of the foods that we eat today are ultra processed, right? Modified starches, seed oils, trans fats, right? We're eating more than we ever have. And all I'm telling you, folks, is that we have a solution to the biggest health problem in the world, and hardly anybody knows about it. And for those of you that are serious about making and moving the needle, like for real, start fasting. And if you're not on this tool, get it. It'll be the best decision that you make in 2026. What I love the most is when I get a text message from a customer who has been on the system for a week or a month or 3 months, and they tell me that this has saved their life. You can't put a price on that. And what I love the most is that when you improve your health, guess what you're doing? You're putting those doctors out of business. You guys realize that doctors just want to diagnose and treat your symptoms. That's how they make money. The more medications you're on, the more money they make. Believe it or not, we have doctors, we have surgeons, we have endocrinologists, we have nutritionists, registered dietitians. We literally have nurses and medical professionals that are literally sharing this with the world because it works. And these are people that legitimately want to make a difference in people's lives. I'm not interested in being I would never want to just treat people. I want to help fix the problem. And for those of you that are asking where to get this, okay, watch my pin videos and I've got to be very careful, but I'm going to end this live because I have to wake up early. So for those of you, okay, feel free. And I know I've got to be careful, and I'm very limited on what I can share when I get on these lives. I don't like getting restricted. But what I can tell you is that my information, my face in the top left corner acts like a button. Here's the other thing. I have just pinned a form, Carlos and anyone else that wants to stay in touch. I have pinned this form. So if you want to fill it out, I will connect with you. And if you want me to send you the details, I'm happy to send it to you tonight. If you want to jump on a call tomorrow, I'm happy to do that. You are welcome to send me a message. I will respond to every single one of you. Listen to what Joey said and Miji, right? This is a system that works. And the best part about this, guys, is that if it doesn't work, you go back to where you started before, you literally lose nothing. This is what I used to reverse stage 4 kidney disease. I lost 32 pounds. Migraine headaches of 23 years went away in the first week. My acid reflux, the brain fog, anxiety, depression, something that I dealt with since I was 14 went away. And if it resonates with you folks, don't wait to fix your health. If you are on the fence, don't wait to be on the fence.